Meanwhile, the Nigeria Labour Congress says day two of the protest and economic hardship was suspended over alleged threat to life. NLC alleges all entrances to its headquarters were militarized on Wednesday morning, even after the protest was put on hold. Joe Ajero differs from the Trade Union Congress, insisting less than 40% of workers have been paid wage awards. He says the compressed natural gas buses are in sight, while the 25,000 naira cash transfer has also not been complied with. The NLC president accused the government of subverting the Congress, saying it will no longer be comfortable attending meetings with government 24 hours to any planned action. Well, let's talk about what seems a potpourri of events and developments, just aftermath the NLC suspended protest, as well as the decision of the Tinubu administration to consider the Orosai report. I'm joined by social commentator Bayo Adedosu. He joins us live from Canada. Mr. Adedosu, thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much, Victor, for having me this evening. How are you doing?
Well, the name is Nifemi. Perhaps the first time we're having a conversation. Absolutely.
Okay, Nifemi, how are you doing today? My bad.
Terrific. So let's begin with what you consider the world best practice, in engaging government, particularly on the side of organized labor, vis-a-vis what has played out, in Nigeria in the past few days.
Well, thank you very much for bringing this up. Actually, this is one topic I've been trying to avoid, because when we are talking about organized labor engaging with the government, the first thing that needs to be seen is good intentions on both sides. You cannot be trying to engage the government and at the same time you want to dictate the rules on how it should go. That is not the way it should be. The moment you submit your request and a committee has been set up to meet with you to look into this, you need to make yourselves available to engage the system. And it is at that level that you actually iron things out. But in a situation whereby the organized labor is playing to the gallery, where they do more of media sensationalism than actually engaging with the government, it leaves much to be desired. It does not show good intention on their hand, whereas what I see this is actually more of playing politics with the real issues that is at stake. Because if there is good intention, the organized labor will work with the committee that has been set up, the tripartite committee, and iron out everything. And along the line, some new issues might even come up that they may need to add to their request, or even the government will identify additional issues that need to be trashed out. But where the organized labor is always jumping out, saying they are no longer attending meetings with the government, without saying exactly why they are not going to engage with the government any longer, that leaves a lot to be desired. And that shows that there is more to it than meets the eye that the organized labor is actually not talking about. And I said it to somebody yesterday. When we are talking about organized labor and the quest for the Nigerian worker, the Nigerian workers we are talking about are not up to 5% of the Nigerian population. And if the organized labor is able to twist the government to accede to some of its requests, the salary review and all that they are talking about is only going to impact 5% of our population. And the 5% of our population will automatically drive up inflation within the country. Prices of goods and services will automatically go up, whereas the people who have not, mark me, who have not benefited from that pay rise, pay review, will be at the brunt of the 5% who have had a pay review. Rent will go up.
Mr. Adedosu, I hear you clearly, but I want to believe that we're past that conversation because the current administration already acknowledged the need to improve what the take-home is. It's definitely not even something that can be debated when you consider how much commodities are sold at the market today. Yes.
Nifemi, the government has identified the need to do that, but is the organized labor being sincere with the way they've been changing the goalpost. I'm talking about changing the goalpost. I'm talking about the Nigerian system entirely, not just a section of the Nigerian people. I'm talking about the totality of Nigeria and Nigerians, not just the Labour Congress and its members. That is the point I'm trying to make. And in the build-up to this conversation, you said the organized labor said the 35,000 naira wage award has not been paid. I spoke with some civil servants some hours ago, less than 2 hours ago, whereby they said only the February, only for February has not been paid.
So apparently the TUC and NLC aren't, at par, aren't agreeing on this particular development. The TUC yesterday or a few days ago confirmed that these monies have been paid up to January, but the NLC president is saying that less than 40% of workers have been paid the wage awards. But contrary to your position, really, there are people, for instance, who have said that the NLC chicken out. They were expecting that the protest will extend beyond a day, just like it was earlier slated. And there are questions of how formidable organized labor is under this administration. And, the argument is that every government needs someone or an organization to put it on its toes. Do you agree?
Yes. Apart from having political opposition leading the way, we also need to have other checks and balances in the form of organized labor, because the organized labor is to champion the cause of their work of their members. But in this particular instance, the Labour Congress has not chickened out. The Labour Congress has only failed itself because the call for this 2-day strike was ill-advised. There was no reason for it whatsoever, because the conversation with the government has not broken down. So if the conversation with the government has not broken down, where is your good intention of calling out a 2-day strike when you are still having meetings, you are still having negotiations? Negotiations have not broken down. The only time there will be a recourse to any form of action outside of a roundtable conversation is when that conversation has actually broken down. And we don't have it anywhere that conversation has broken down. It is the Labour Congress that is saying it will no longer attend these meetings. So for what reasons? Let us ask the Nigerian Labour Congress. For what reasons are they saying they will no longer engage with the government? It is on record that the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress is partisan, is political, because the Labour Congress is unable to separate itself from partisanship, is unable to separate itself from the Labour Party. It has seen itself, it continues to see itself as an arm of the Labour Party, and as such is working as a political opposition as against being a group of people or leadership that champions the cause of the Nigerian worker. And when that goes on, at a point in time, the Nigerian government may need to go to court to actually challenge the Nigerian Labour Congress vis-a-vis the laws that actually set it up. Because if it is going outside of its mandate, they need to be called back to actually focus on their mandate. They cannot be playing politics with the Nigerian people. They cannot be trying to stoke up embers of discord within the system. They cannot be trying to stoke up conflicts within the system, all in the name of Nigerian workers. We have had very beautiful Nigerian Labour Congress leaders. One of them is a senator today, Adedosu, who later became governor of Edo State. Wonderful gentleman who focused mainly on the struggle for the emancipation and for the good of the Nigerian workers. We've had Pa Imodu, or late Pa Imodu. We have had several of them. They have never been this. They have never been this political. They have never been this making attempt to actually destabilize the government. Labour Congress did not chicken out. The attempt to actually unsettle the government failed and fell on. You're not
in any way suggesting that organized labor shouldn't have a say, politically on election year, or lose their power to run a political party themselves. After all, they are the workforce. They should be at liberty to, field the candidate and support him or her massively, don't you think?
I totally disagree. Nigerian Labour Congress was set up to champion the cause of the Nigerian workers. The fact that we have a party called Labour Party does not mean it should be an appendage of the Nigerian Labour Congress. We should not mix things up, because by so doing, we are creating a conflict of interest. At what point are we going to let Labour Congress know that their cause is to champion the cause of the Nigerian masses? So if Labour Congress wants to transform into a full-fledged political party, that will actually affect why they were set up. And that is what we are seeing. Since the Labour Congress ventured into politics with the Labour Party, we've seen the way things are going down. The seriousness and the agility that Nigerians used to know the Labour Congress for is no longer there, because the Labour Congress, as it is today, has shown its hands as more of a political organization than a Labour Congress that is fighting for the good of the Nigerian workers. And for as long as they are mixing politics, the fact that there is a Labour Party does not mean the Nigerian Labour Congress must be involved in politicking. What I'm saying to you is the Nigerian Labour Congress of today is involved in politicking. Politicking is outside of their mandate. And as such, they should leave the running of the Labour Party to the leadership of the party. They can have agenda that the Labour Party agrees with, but that in itself does not mean they have to be political.
I hear you clearly, but the support that the protest garnered in its first day speak otherwise. So there are Nigerians who will tell you for free that they now pay more for commodities after the removal of full subsidy, and that the condition of living is not something that is desirable, particularly when you consider how much they pay for some of these commodities. But I want to take you back to the agreement that federal government reached with organized labor.
Let me quickly say something. The word is, we are forgetting something. The global economy is in a turmoil as we speak. Let's realize that for 2 good years, global production was at a standstill as a result of COVID. How did we think that was going to impact global economy and even Nigeria's economy? Numbers of industries were shut down. Some of them have completely wound up today as a result of the effect of COVID. Nobody is talking about the effect of COVID. Let me give you an instance. Before 2020 COVID situation, a liter of petrol, gas, that we call gas here, was 98 cents. But as at this morning, a liter of petrol is $1.52. An 8 kg bag of rice that we used to buy for 99 cents is today that we used to buy for $9.99 is today $15. And I can go on and on. And mind you, the government actually put a freeze on salary review. And the funny thing is, if we are talking salary review in the Western world, the most a worker gets at salary review is 2.5%. What effect does that have on your living? Something happened on Friday that nobody sees in the media in Canada. 2 people jumped in front of moving trains, committed suicide because they could not survive anymore.
I hear you clearly, Mr. Adedosu, but you also agree with me that the primary responsibility of government is to cushion what you call this global effect. And this administration saw it coming. Mr. President did say that there are no excuses for non-performance, in his administration. And asking government what it will do to cushion the hardship isn't too much a question to ask. But the position of labor in this regard. Just a minute, Mr. Ladosu, Mr. Adedosu. The question really right now is whether or not you think this administration is picking up speed in the area of the agreement it made with organized labor, part of which last year was to revive the CNG conversion program that was agreed with labor centers in 2021. And NLC is saying that if the Tinubu administration has been able to fix the issue of transportation, for instance, in the early months of this government, immediately after the announcement of removal of fuel subsidy, that we perhaps may not be where we are as we speak?
I think the assertion by the Labour Congress is actually a bit unfounded, because sometime last year, the Nigerian government, the Tinubu-led administration, came out with the conversion program and the conversion centers, the CNG conversion centers. It was all over the place in the news. So if the Labour Congress is looking for something to use to beat the government, it is not this. And let us remember, there was a time in the life of this country that even the Labour Congress itself had bosses across the state that Nigerian workers were applying to work. What happened to that initiative? Why is it that everything is about the government at the federal level? How is the Labour Union or the Labour Congress, the organized labor, engaging at the state level? We have forgotten that we have 3 tiers of government: the local government, the state government, and the federal government. How has the Nigerian Labour Congress fought for its members at the state level who are being owed months and months of salaries, and even pensioners are being owed? My auntie, who used to work with UCH in Ibadan, University College Hospital in Ibadan, was telling me just last week that our pension was slashed by 40%. I've never heard of pension being slashed. How is the Labour Congress engaging at the state level? Whatever the federal government is trying to do, it's the only way it can be implemented where it will have impact on the Nigerian people is at the state and local government level. The federal government only creates enabling environment. And if the enabling environment is being created and the other tiers of government are not running with the vision, are not in tune with it, this is what we always come to. It seems as if Nigerians have given up on state government and local government, like they don't exist. Are we asking them what they're doing with their allocations? How many people even know their governors, know their commissioners, know their local government chairmen? I remember when I was growing up in Ibadan then, we had the Ibadan municipal government, IMG. Out of the old Ibadan municipal government, 11 local governments came out of it in present Oyo State. At that time, the IMG Ibadan municipal government was so vibrant that everybody in Ibadan, every indigenous of Ibadan felt the impact of local government administration. And in those days, in the late 70s, in the 80s, 90s, for you to actually become anything in the political life of your state, you must have done something at the local government level.
I hear you clearly, but I'm afraid that we have to go now. Perhaps, we'll return to continue this conversation and ask questions about the cash transfer program, which was also part of this agreement, and the need to establish a framework that can include low-income earners. There are renewed questions about what has happened to the investigation into the suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and how, this program has fared on the high in the past few months. But that's our time. We need to go now. Bye, Adedosu. Thank you so much for your contribution live from Canada.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm always at your beck and call. May Nigeria succeed.